Hello, storytellers. It's Storytelling Ron, and I just woke up today, this Saturday morning, to some wonderful comments from two wonderful comments because I'm a little YouTuber. For my basic game overview, and I'm gonna definitely do more of these. I did a one like an ASMR where I was making a dungeon crawl, so I'll definitely upload that one. It's kind of I mean, so are all my videos, but and it really kind of explains my thought process and trying to figure out. This is new to me. This is new to me. A Christian role playing game that is really, the mechanics to me are really about how the medieval Europe and fantasy was really truly formed, truly created. I'm going to say this again. Fantasy is medieval Europe, old white guys, the confluence of paganism and Christianity. That's what fantasy is. That draws us kids, our kids in. That draws us in. That we so love and adore as storytelling. And what have we done? We've taken out the Christianity, and now the pagans are all that are left, and they're taking credit for romance, for chivalry. They're taking credit for heroes. They're taking credit for knighthood. They're taking credit for everything, and they're even, oh yeah, there used to be this church, so they're just making a pagan church in the stories now, and in the role playing games. And then we Christians are like, stodgy, dodgy, removing ourselves. And I think that's wrong. We need to get back in there. And there is fantasy writings, Christians that are doing fantasy books and stuff. So I'm not discrediting that. I'm specifically referring to the RPG world. And I know there's Christians trying really hard to make Christian fantasy books to try to get into the mainstream with those. And I think the problem is that we see, I'm totally going off subject here, but we kind of, the surface stuff of fantasy, we just accept as pagan. And then, there's Christians trying really hard to get the Christian back in there. But I'm trying to this game is trying to get you all, I'm trying to give you a framework so that you can write stories, you can create or role-playing games that work this way, which is how we Christians worked. I think. All of our Christianity is based on missionary work. It's not based on fighting the dragon or, that happens. It happens, but because we're fighting the dragon, because we're trying to plant a church in the area, or, we're doing the Great Commission. Okay, so let me just get to the comments, because these are two. I woke up. I was not going to do anything today for the Lord RPG. I was going to take a rest today, Saturday. I was going to take a rest from God today. Okay, that's what I was going to do. But I guess God said, "Nah, I want you to work on this a little more." You can take a rest from God, right? And play a non-Christian RPG. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with you playing 5e. I dog it. Okay, I dog the 5e. I dog RPGs. But if you love 5e or other role-playing games, Morkborg, I got them right here. I would like to play them too. That's fine. But I'm dogging them in the sense of, hey, we still have to have Christian ones. We still have to have, All right, so Metonic, I'm going to start with Metonic because he just had one comment here, and then Magikarp, thank you so much for I'll get to you in a second. Okay, Metonicus, I told someone I wanted to make a Christian-based RPG, and they said it would be boring. I believe that too, up until yesterday, basically. This was interesting. In the right DM's hands, this could be quite a bit of fun. So, I like that, thank you so much for that post, and also in the right DM's hands, this could be quite a bit of fun. The right DM is the one that just does it, just makes mistakes, and lets all the players know that I'm going to make a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's just try this out. As long as the worst times I've ever had as a DM or as a person in real life is when I go in thinking I know it all, thinking I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. That's the worst experience ever in my life. Because eventually you crack and someone sees it and they drive into that crack. They don't even drive into that crack purposely. There's a little crack here. No, there isn't. There's a little crack here. You might want to check it out. No, there's no crack because I know what I'm doing. Never works for me. Never works for me. So when I go to play, when I GM, I'm just, hey guys, I'm going to try this. Just going with humility, and that's the secret to GMing well. Go in with humility, have them help you with the rules. Whenever they question the rules, especially at the beginning, it's okay to stop as long as people want to stop. If they don't want to stop, if you feel like it's slowing the game down, they say, hey, let's just do this and then we'll figure it out later. Let me write a note down. The humility is the secret to being a DM or GM. So that's the best way to, and when you play I'm bringing these videos out to try to teach you, and but more importantly, teach me how to do this, how to do a Christian role playing game. And this is like, to me, like, this is how it was. This is how I'm doing medieval Europe kind of stuff, or Christendom rather, because could have happened in Africa or in Middle East or wherever. Sadly, it didn't, but it happened in Europe. So I'm doing it that. Oh, and I think what'd be cool is a modern day African Christian motif, because there's a lot of witch doctors and shamanism there today. I mean, there is here in America now, but there's a lot of it there today that's very sort of, like Cthulhu-y kind of thing. That would be a cool Christian role-playing game, like South Africa going up, or anywhere, or the Liberia. Anyway, okay, so thank you for that comment, Antonicus. Magikarp, I really thank you. I was, this is you really put a lot of thought into this, and it was a wonderful read, really wonderful read. So, and you were the impetus for me making this video, because look at that comment, look at that. I gotta respect this, because there was I found the whole thing was you being thoughtful, and that's it. And I was really, so let me quickly try to read this and comment. I've never seen your channel before, but I'm going to watch your game sessions later. The reason I did the game sessions is because I needed to know myself, and and the best way to teach about the game really is through playing it. And so I feel that the shows are as important as the game itself. They're and man, I put myself out there. I really, embarrassed myself, ashamed myself. I got tons of rejections. I exposed myself, whatever the word is, for trying to get these shows and trying to get Christian actors, and getting rejected on sites, and you can't do that, and da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, sorry. I'll go somewhere else, kind of thing. And so I did a lot of that, and I didn't have to, right? I didn't, I'm just giving myself a lot of credit here, but I just felt compelled to do that, because having a shows and then getting actors was kind of just important because this is a whole new field or whatever. I think doing missionary work in a game, although it's happened for 2,000 years. In the meantime, this is Magikarp again. In the meantime, I'm going to write as I listen to this video. The comments. Okay. I'm going to try to avoid discussing theology and politics as much as I can, not because I'm interested in those things, rather because doing so will help me narrow the scope of what I write. That's fine. We'll see how well I stick to that, though. And you did a great job. A TTRPG about evangelizing, growing the church. Fascinating premise for a rule set. Yeah, I never thought of it. It never came to me. Born out of this frustration or whatever I've had. And if it's God's will, great. If it's not God's will, I apologize to God. It's God's will I'm concerned about, not mine. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, God told me to do this. No, I'm not going to do that. I've heard that anyway, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm interested. Okay. Religion has had a significant impact on human history, but I do find it difficult to actively consider religion when I try to play Dungeons and Dragons. I think Dungeons and Dragons 5e is a really good game system for running combat, but it isn't too great for anything else. Correct. You are absolutely correct. Dungeons and Dragons is basically paganism. You do pagan things. You serve gods. There are acts and there are things in there to do to serve your gods. So that's paganism. And there's absolutely nothing in there about evangelism, about the Christian faith, which is evangelism and planting churches, and then teaching people. They come to the church and learn about learn how to read the Bible. Really, a pastor's job is to teach you how to read the Bible. That's really what it is. And that's why that's my major criticism of Catholicism today is they don't teach their congregants how to read the Bible. So to me, the best thing to do my best advice for a Catholic is read your Bible, get a Bible study, because the Mass doesn't do that and the priests don't do it. So, and I can't argue with them about it. I don't want to argue. I don't want to get a Bible study. I mean, so learn your Bible. Don't do it through the Mass, through the anyway. Well, I love going off. So D&D, yeah, and I don't even like the combat anymore. I'm criticizing that now. I don't like the combat. I do combat. D&D 5e does not feel like what I do. I don't like it at all. Now that I've played it 3-4 years, and did D&D in the past and all these role playing games. My system, I love it. I'm very biased. Blah blah blah. And I sat here and thought about what I did in the list, how I felt in this helmet in the list with the team fighting other guys in front of me. How I felt, that's how I slowly, meticulously, did the combat in here. But I also took away the anything that just didn't, was a little too much. Even if I thought it was more like, I really wanted it to flow though quickly, just like in a list, I guess. And things are chaotic. And I like the fact that, in D&D, a 10th level guy can beat a 5th level, 7th, first all the time. In my game, you can't always, you're going to get beat. And that's true in the list. That's true in the list. When a new person is just got their armor and just ready to fight me in the list, they're a threat. They're not, I'm not going to push them over, Okay. Religion 5e. Where's the 5e part? Okay. So yeah. Vitality is how much pain and suffering one can take before collapsing. That's my quote. And then you respond, that's a great way to put it. I don't have the easiest time trying to process how hit points might translate to realism in other games, but this explanation makes a lot of sense. It's exhaustion, vitality. You're getting beat, you're getting hit, you're getting nicks and cuts and bruises, aches and pains. When that becomes too much to bear, you drop, you gasp, maybe you're gasping and you're pretty much open now to start taking grievous wounds. And that's when you drop to 0, it's not necessarily that you're unconscious or anything, or that you do drop, or I just quickly say you drop, but you could be, if you want to describe yourself staggering and weak, and that's fine too. And you can recover, like kind of the death save thing or life save thing, but that's the turns, and then you're getting attacked, and every attack from that point on is grievous wounds. When you take a wound, you're getting stabbed or whatever. So yeah, I really like the vitality thing. There's a difference between blessings and magic. That's what I'm reading in the books that I'm studying on the Dark Ages concerning paganism and Christianity. I really like how you explained yourself here. I learned a couple of magic tricks, but I'm definitely interested to see Magus or class that you create. Yeah, the Magi. Yeah, I got to get on that. I finished it, I guess. I just haven't. I got to get someone to play test it for me. See how it goes. But it looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay. So, I'll get into that more later. Swinging at someone is one thing, but swinging and knowing. Yeah, I imagine with technique. I imagine with technique might be the word to use here. Someone with knowledge and technique on how to use a thing are going to be more proficient with it. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Technique. Yeah, it's technique, it's repetitiveness, it's muscle memory. And then it's because when people swing, they swing like this. Okay. But after training and fighting, you learn to swing like this. You use your body, blah, blah, blah. So I love that in this game, you can increase the to hit and the to damage of a mace to become comparable to a battle axe. Someone good with a mace is just as effective as someone with a battle axe. If they're trained, if they know how to use it and they know how to fight with it. So the damage of a weapon starts off like in D&D traditionally. But a fighter can improve that. And same with a woman, and I'll get to the woman thing. Gender. Okay, here we are. Gender-based classes. I'm a huge opponent of gender-based class systems. Sure, in the real world, there are biological differences that may give men a significant advantage in regards to performing feats of physical strength. But putting aside my opinions on gender roles in modern society, this is fantasy. And personally, I feel like fantasy is the best place for exploring new ideas and pretending to be characters who can do things that can't do in real life. And then, I mean, if I met a woman like Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, I'm going to have a hard time convincing myself that it'd be impossible for her to be a great fighter just because she's a woman. Okay. So, what you said here is wonderful and great, and I'm going to dog it, but it's wonderful. And nothing here. I love that you're a really good person, because there's nothing here that you insult me or mock or scoff me. You just say, how you feel. And that's fine. And that's wonderful. I read that and that was wonderful. So I just want to thank you for that. I don't think I've ever read anything that didn't have, some sort of insidiousness to it, like in the sense of critiquing me. So really, I'm impressed by that. And that's why I'm making this video, because I do it myself. So I'll just fess that up when I'm, when I critique people. Okay, so a couple things here. I'm a huge opponent of gender-based class systems. Okay, so yeah, the patron lady, the nun, the cleric, and the fighter. So the fighter and the cleric are male, for sure. The patron lady and the nun. So the nun and the cleric are very similar. Like the nun is the female one of the clergy, and the patron lady. You can certainly have a patron man, but I didn't want to do that yet. Like second edition, I'll do that. So I don't have a problem with that, and I can see the patron guy being pretty weak and society based as well, and so I just kept it this way. And I purposely separated the genders because paganism pretends that we don't have genders, right? Even in the old days, they pretend that, and yet they all know. Like a pagan woman today who confronts me would then say to one of her goons, men, confront me physically. She would not, she would, if she did, it would be ridiculous. They know, and they know not to confront me physically. They know to go get a man to confront me. And I've seen that in videos and stuff where they'll, come on guy, whatever. So a woman knows to get a man. So my wife is, I'm going to get to that in the other part here. Well, okay, no, it's here. So the fighting, we have women fighters in our list and our fighting and stuff. They're not faster. They're not stronger. They're very weak. They cannot swing very hard. They just can't. Now, could they swing hard and get me? Yeah, maybe once if I'm not aware or not looking or whatever, but they cannot. It just is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And can they be lethal? Of course they can. Of course they can, but not to the degree that a man can, and not the consistency. And they don't. And here, there's things, physique. Our upper body is just much bigger. We have all these muscles here that they don't have. Joints. I can tell by the movement of the women that their joints are not connected the way our men are. The joints of, I could tell that the strength in our joints gives us the ability to do aggressive stuff. For women though, is their joints, you could just tell they're soft and supple. And when they try to swing hard, it's slow and weighted down. You can tell they're just weighted down by the weight of things. Even the light weapons, they're weighted down by. And when they swing too, you could tell that they cannot, it comes back very weighted as opposed to fluid. And so it's very slow, the movements they make when I sort of practice with them, for the fun of it. And I go slower. I go more gentle. These are combat women in medieval armor that are trying to be ferocious. I go slower and lighter with them. And because I like that they're having fun. Okay. And besides, we're all having fun. I like that they're having fun, but I want them to only fight with women and in the team melees. They're just slower. They don't run as fast. They don't, and they're training hard. And there was a special forces woman who did special forces, and she wrote a long letter saying how she can't do it. She was the top of the line of her women. And the letter, it was a few years back. But she said she could do it maybe one day, keep up with the men. But then the next day the men just did it again. And she was, just body was just beaten down. She could not recover. So she, so I don't want to give, role-playing games has become an influencer, and I don't want to influence women to think that they can do what men do. And I find that offensive anyway. That why do you want to do what men do? That's ridiculous. Do what women do. Do what your body's made to do. Do what you want to do. My daughter's a little resistant to this as well because she loves 5e. So I'll just fess that up. And I haven't gotten her to play this, but she's in that age where she's got a suitor now, so she's living that kind of life. She's past that fun period of 11. I had her from 11 to 15, 16, somewhere in there. She really, we played 5e. So she was, I think we started playing 5e when she was 12 or 13, and we played and had some really epic campaigns, and she played these characters and stuff. And actually she played an elf archer and an elf druid. So she never even played like a tough barbarian character. But my point being, women can't do it. They don't have the connective tissues. They don't have, it's not going to happen. And so even in CrossFit, they separate them out, right? Everything. So, women have their strengths. So my wife is she's petite. She's she's not a vegetarian, but she's almost a vegetarian. And she loves just eating lettuce, like little lettuces, like a little rabbit. But she, I remember making fun of her. I said, "Hey, I'm so big and walking around with you. How do you feel about that?" Try to intimidate her. And I was just joking around with her once, and she's all, "I feel protected." And I was like, "Oh, oh, oh, yeah, okay, yes." She feels protected. So that, I'm a man, I'm a Christian. I love my wife. I love the ground. I love the ground that she walks on. I worship the ground that she walks on. I will protect her with my life. And everything I do, all this fighting, guns, and whatever else, it's fun. But the most important thing to me is protecting my wife and my family, and this home. So there's your equality as a Christian, and she knows I'm in charge. She knows I'm in charge spiritually of this home, and I'm in charge of this family, and she knows, and we've said that, and she, she's the fashion director. She makes the money. I don't. I've given up all my careers for my, to homeschool my daughters, so I don't have a problem with that either. So whatever that is, that's how we are. I'm the head of my wife. She's the head of the children. And I serve them all. That's the thing. That's the funny thing about leadership. As a Christian, you discover what leadership is. It's serving those below you. That's what leadership is. Anyway, so okay. Oh, Brienne of Tarth. That was fun. So yeah, let me critique that just for the fun of it. She, it's a show, so it's fake. So to be influenced by that, and for women to think they can come around and start swinging a sword and fighting men, of such power, is wrong. It was a great though little fight sequence or whatever. So if I was the wolf, I would have just jumped on her, knocked her down very easily, because women just don't have the aggressiveness to stay up, and in play too, and just stabbed her with a little knife, or just beat her up in the face. I would have had my knees on top of her body. She wouldn't be able to swing. It would have been done in very quickly. And sad, because that's not the career she should have chosen. Or so anyway, let's just get past that and say that she wants to be a knight or whatever. I still think the aggression would have been 4, or maybe if you're in like MMA and you train the heck out of yourself, you went to a 5. But the guy is going to go to 6 or 7 in aggression easily. If he's training for MMA or whatever. But it's not going to happen. And for us to convince ourselves it is, and we're making it so easy to say, hey, let's believe in, paganism. And it's because paganism is like, hey, whatever you want, believe whatever you want. Even though the real world is going to destroy you and kill you and ruin you, believe whatever you want. Whereas Christianity is, hey, let's look at the real world. It's evil. It's full of sin. Now let's follow some morals that keep us safe from that sin. That keep us free from that sin. That's what Christianity is. The freedom to not be succumb to the sins of the world. The sins of the world is exploitation, it's sexual exploitation, tyranny, all these things. If we follow the moral laws of God, we will actually all be free from these horrible things. And the problem with paganism is it's saying, hey, you can do whatever you want. You can believe in yourself. And then all these horrible things are going to now be free to attack you. Okay. And enslave you. Okay, so I hope I answered that. Weapons. I wonder what short means for weapon range. Okay, so short or close. That's kind of what I meant. So sometimes I use one or the other just because I'm not consistent. I don't, in the game, like when I'm typing out in different various areas. But short is just for, and melee should be the one for fighting. And short is for, like 30 feet-ish. Yeah, but again, it's like whatever you want, whatever you think short is for that weapon. And I actually have decided to take out weapon range penalty. Like if you're shooting at medium, you're at minus D4. If you're shooting at far, you're at minus D6. I decided to take it out just because I don't like to use it when we're playing, and I just like to kind of just whatever you know. If I do use a weapon range to limit what you do, but if someone actually wanted to argue they want to shoot beyond that, then I would say okay, then I'll give you minus D4, minus D6, whatever. But anyway, I don't know. That's loosey goosey, the weapon ranges. Maneuvers. I think I like this maneuver system. If you can use a maneuver to sacrifice your movement in order to improve your attack with a ranged weapon, I feel like an untrained person with melee could sacrifice their ability to move in order to concentrate on a flanking attack. That's fine. And then a trained fighter would be able to use flanking attacks and move at the same time. I don't know, something like that. And alternatively, if flanking was removed as a maneuver usable by anybody, the existence of the aim maneuver would still allow the less combat-enabled classes, genders, to be more relevant in the combat when engaging at range. Okay, so yeah, these are little things that you got good points, and there's sort of an argument either way kind of thing, or discussion either way. I sort of make a decision, use it, and then see if it plays simple. And I look for a way to keep it simple. Concerning these aims and flanks. And the only real thing there is that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take out the flank so that you have to buy it, with glory points. Because it was in there naturally, like a flank was in there naturally. But even if someone new flanked me, if they're not good, if they don't know what they're doing, the flank is not that great. Okay, it's just they're there. Maybe they want to try to. But the real flank is when you come up fast and you do something quick and then you take off. That's the real dangerous flank. So I want to. It could go either way as far as scenarios and discussions on aim and flank. So the basic premise of aim and flank is if you don't maneuver for aim, you can get an extra D4 to your range shot because you're being more careful, and you can improve that so that it goes to that adds to hit for any ranged weapon. Flank, I said you get a D4, and if you flank somebody, and then I said you can improve on that and go D6, D8, But then I decided I'll just take flank out all the way. You have to buy it in. So I basically just took it out one thing, and I think I'm going to stick with that just for simplicity. And then they can, because when a new person learns to flank, they're like, "Oh, this is a good idea," but they're not effective. So then they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna use that, buy that skill, and get the flank skill." And because I like I explained in my experience, I flank guys, but the new guys never flank. They never flank, at least not effectively. And then once I train them, then they know to flank. And do and try it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So they use a glory point to get that up. Power of prayer. I'm a little slow to understand the non-combat related rules, but I really like this concept. This encourages the practice of prayer with an in-game benefit. Yeah, it gives you an inspired point. And I always give them like a D4 no matter what kind of thing, as long as they pray and do a little 30 seconds or less, prayer. But yeah, power of prayer is very important to Christians. We use it a lot today, and it invigorates us, and it strengthens us, it inspires us to do what we need to do day to day. I mean, we use it all the time. So no game has that. Yet it exists. It exists in the world, and it's real. So boom. Women's rules. Okay, so we're back to the women thing. While I dislike gender-based character classes, it is interesting to hear how you balance the two genders here. A bonus role to a support action is certainly in line with the theme of women's strengths being in a more supportive role. Right, so the women's touch has a list of sort of skills that they can do. Cleanliness, mothering, feigning, and I had my women players use them, and it's been great. It's been great, and it feels right. I had a teen girl who her stamina was low, or was it called stamina at the time? Vitality was low, and her aggression was low. She's like, what? she didn't get that she had to be so low, and then her brother had this big tough dude. So her vitality was like 6 or 4, and his vitality was 15. Okay, not fair. Check this out. When they got into a harrowing situation, she said, "You go forward. You go up there." Now, in real life, does a woman charge forward and swing her battle axe, or does she look for the man and say, "You go forward"? And he said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go up." And she was looking for something to do in the back, to try to help. That's what I want to get across to women and girls. I want them to know that their roles are different from men. And as you can call me sexist or whatever, but look at men. I mean, even the pagans, they totally do exactly what I'm saying, but they talk out of the other side of their dairy. They talk out of their derriere when with their belief system. That doesn't make sense, even for what they do, how they act. Don't get me started. I don't know how I feel about the can never go above aggression 4 rule, though. In spite of my dislike of gender-based classes, I'm trying to be open-minded here. You're way better than me, let me tell you. Although, don't get too open-minded, because then you'll die. So, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Okay, men get to be physically stronger because they're men. Not just physically stronger, they're more aggressive. So I can maybe understand, but in this game, the aggression stat is also tied into vitality. Yep. Yep. The more aggressive guys have more vitality. They just know how to last longer. They just go for it. Now, some of them can run out of vitality because they can have a low vitality if they don't improve that at some point. And it's all about breathing. It's all about training too. So to me, someone who increases their vitality is working on their breathing. Because even with pain, you have to breathe and get through that pain. That's like the biggest thing about increasing vitality. And it's also it's breathing, but it's also avoiding, just avoiding stupid stuff. Right? As you get better at fighting, you avoid the stupid stuff. And already the available female classes have the least starting vitality. Yep, too low in my opinion, but regardless. And if you want to change it, that's fine. I would discourage that in the sense of I would discourage women thinking they can have a battle axe and start swinging like a barbarian. I would just, if you got that in your game, that is breaking the essence and intent of this game for the women and men, for us to understand. I want a woman to be a woman in this game. I want a man to be a man, as in real life. Because a man will do everything he can to fight and protect that woman. We don't have that in games now. We just have whatever. Okay. And if we're trying to resemble reality to some degree here, women are capable of training their physical strength too. Their strength ceiling might be lower than a man's, but they can definitely get stronger than a man who doesn't train at all. They can, absolutely. But even then, now, I don't really want to go into a man that's just lazy and effeminate and doesn't do anything or whatever. And not even, and that's fine too. I don't want to denigrate that. If a man is totally weak and not physical, they have just as legit, to be who they are. So let me think. At my church, I got a lot of men who don't work out. They're just Christian guys. They're just husbands. They're just dads. And then they have their wives. So yeah, so if a woman is training, so a man could have an aggression of 2. A man can have an aggression of 0. So that's the minimum. If you're saying a man who doesn't train, yeah. And then that woman trains to aggression 4. And so she's going to have a better aggression than a man. A man's aggression can be 0 or negative. A man's aggression can be negative 2. So a man can be weaker than a woman or less aggressive than a woman, easily. It's the men though who desire to be, if a man and a woman both desire to be fighters, the man's going to get to 5 automatically, and she can only get to 4. So that's at the start. So they are technically pretty close. And then for the man to get to a 6 is going to cost him 6 glory points. So it's going to be hard. But she's going to have less vitality. I'm putting it in there, man. She's only going to have a D4, start with 4 and D4. They don't have the endurance and strength of a man. I mean, look at soccer. Okay, so soccer, the women's soccer team trains. They're the top, Olympic or whatever, gold medalists. The 14-year-old boys soccer team beat them. They had better endurance. They were faster. They have their ligaments. They beat them like easily. 14, 15-year-olds beat them. And these are women that trained top of the line. Hardcore, big thighs, big meaty thighs. The 14, 15-year-olds beat them. I remember my daughter plays basketball, right? So they were playing, they're like number one when she was in high school. And I watched them play. I went to every game. And then when the boys played, they didn't play them, but then they were whenever they had their game, they were like flying in the air. The girls, I was so used to the women that, the girls playing, and they're just good job, yay, and then the guys, I was like, whoa, I saw the difference, huge difference. Okay, personally, if I picked up this rule set and wanted to maintain this idea that women's strengths are not in aggressive related areas, I think the change I would make is this. I would disregard the maximum aggression cap and instead cap their starting aggression at trade bonus. So instead of being able to use a +5 as their starting aggression bonus, I'd maybe get them to start at a +2. Female characters are already restricted in their combat performance due to the low vitality and lack of offensive skills and weapons with their available classes. So I don't see a lot of a reason also to hard cap their potential, which is fine. If you want to do it that way, I think there's already a lot to dissuade them from combat encounters. And if there isn't a lot of value for non-combat classes to invest in the aggression trade, then female characters are going to look at investing glory points elsewhere. Well, I hope so. I don't want them. When I see these girls, they show on Facebook, and I'm like the Debbie Downer. They'll show a girl doing really good at football, like a kicker, or maybe I saw a kicker, and I think there was one that maybe she was a running back. But I'm like, they're all like, good job, I'm like, no, don't do this. You're giving her a false hope, and then she's going to hit a wall, and a really horrible wall at some point. Don't do that to a woman, to a girl. Don't mislead them into something horrible. And then she's going to hang out with young men. At my church, this is freaking rare, right? And this should not be rare. This should be common. At my church, I and all fathers and men cannot watch the children alone. We are not allowed to. The women can, but the men cannot. We know the sin of ourselves and the sin of man. We are not going to shy away from, I'm pointing at you. We are not going to shy away from who we are, the evil sin in us. Pagans like to pretend, oh, we're all good. We're all good. Allow this young man to take care of those children over there behind those doors. At us church, like, no. Get him out of there right now. Get him out. We're the voice of reason. But we're being called the sexist and the racist and all that. Okay. Female characters are already restricted. Okay, I think about that. And if there are a lot of in-game encounters, non-combat, yeah. So I do add some combat options for them to get them, make sure they have fun in the combat situations. But in my game, in every combat situation, there's always a potential for evangelism, or always potential that the enemy will relent. So I have that baked in there. So you have a rule in there where whenever the cultists start to get hurt or whatever, there's a chance of them surrendering, backing off, and that's a chance for the women to do that, as well as the clergy. But also the patron lady has a crossbow, and in my games, you'll see that's been effective. And crossbow is very effective. I make the dagger and the crossbow bolt and the arrow, the short bow arrow, actually can be potentially lethal. Because in most games they're not, and that's ridiculous. You can get shot with an arrow and die. So I've put that in there. You can get one dagger wound at the right place and you could die. So I've put that in there. Not instant death, but definitely wounded and you're going down. You're getting weaker. Although, yeah, you can actually die because you can get a bleed and a grievous wound, and if she does like a crit, does the maximum. But anyway, so the women have plenty of things going on in the combat. Watch the shows. And the nun has I See an Angel, which is cool, which is a big epic thing that she can do. And I had a Christian guy tell me he didn't think that was good, but then when we talked over it, he's like, okay, I guess you're right, kind of thing. So, ICNH. Okay. Admittedly, my tabletop role-playing game experience is limited to a small bit of D&D 5e. It's a great game system for fighting monsters, which is pretty much what it's meant for, but not the great system for having anything else. So most of my limited experience is mostly combat. While I have no doubt that a more experienced game master would be able to provide these non-combat encounters, if I were to try to GM, my imagination is going to be most inclined toward combat encounters. So I only have 5 pages of rules, or 6 pages, of really rules for combat and maneuvers and encounters. Oh no, I'm sorry, encounters. I do have a GM section with the encounters and some guides, some roles you can do before preparing the villains in the village. And so roll those and get yourself a range of what you think they should be doing. And if it's, and you know what, all you got to do to determine for yourself as a new GM whether a good guy or bad guy is going to be violent or sort of thoughtful is just roll versus, spirit versus spirit, aggression, intimidation versus intimidation, or social versus social. And just if the characters beat them, then the villains or whatever will start to relent. They'll start to consider. They'll start, play like, oh, maybe you're right. And you don't have to be like they convert for sure. They more like, we can allow you to bring in a church and we'll consider it. Boom, that's it. That's the victory right there. You won, the encounter. So now, but if they obviously fail those rules, then we're gonna fight you. You must get out of here or we'll kill you. You go that route. Then it's combat, and the nun can heal. Do blessings as well and all that to help. Okay, anyway, this system seems awesome. The glory points. I really like this alternative to the typical leveling system found in other games. Don't have to bother with calculating experience points, but you still get to strengthen your character and be rewarded for your victories. Thank you. Yes, this is one of the biggest reasons why I don't want to play D&D anymore is levels. I hate the level thing, because when I get in the list and fight, the new guys can fight. If we train them enough, get them the basics. They're just as dangerous as the experienced guys. Experienced guys are dangerous, right? But so it's more like consistency. The experienced guys are more consistently doing things correct, but the new guys can do correct things or dumb things, and sort of 50-50, so I feel like, with D&D, you don't have that. And anyway, I've already spent the last several hours trying to understand the game system and put my feelings into words, so I'm going to stop typing in a moment. My last thoughts are I definitely think that I like this game system. My biggest issue is going to be the gender restrictions, but I don't think my problem is so significant that it would dissuade me from playing. Personally, if I ran this game, I'd rather spend more time trying to balance the two genders until I was comfortable. Or get out of your comfort zone, because we have been lied to. We're being lied to in Hollywood and academia, especially in academia. We're being lied to. Women and men are different, and we should cherish that. We should cherish that. I cherish that my wife is different from me. I cherish that she is supple and soft. I do not want her to be hard and, I cherish that my wife is who she is. And I grew up with a mom and 2 daughters or sisters, and I have a wife and 2 daughters. So I cherish that they're different from me. I don't want them to be the same as me. I don't want them to run around and do what I do. I need them. My wife has taken care of me more than I am always injuring myself. I'm always hurting myself or waking up with, and she has to care for me. So it's hilarious. I've only had to take care of her once when she had a mid-cancer surgery, and she's looked so frail from her. She's already petite and small, and then she looked that much smaller after the surgery. It was incredible. And then I was like, come on, get up. You can do it. So, but she would never do that to me. Okay. Or I'll just allow my players to play whatever class they want, regardless of gender. In my head, a male version of the nun would be, the clergy, the monks, who shave the top of their heads, and a male patron lady would be a lord or noble. Yes. And again, my limited tabletop experience is combat centric, so I need to spend more time trying to figure out how to do non-combat encounters. The best way is to just GM, to do it. It'll tell them you're learning how to do this. You want to, figure it out. You can even have, and I would actually not have a discussion about it when you're playing. Just do it and make mistakes. And you know what? The people you play make mistakes. The people you play will respond in dumb ways, just as you do it dumbly, and that's fine. And then don't stop and say, "How do you guys think I should GM this?" Just bulldoze forward. I mean, with humility. The thing that they should correct you on is the role playing, or not the role playing, the mechanics part. We kind of make sure that works, and don't bulldoze over them with mechanics. Right? Let them kind of have their do things without you making it too hard on them. But I would just you singularly do it to figure it out and make mistakes as you go, or make the character villains, the encounters just be inconsistent. They're pagans. Of course they can be inconsistent. Every pagan, I've read this book by a pagan about paganism, and it's all made up. Every one of them is just they hear from each other, they hear stories, and then they start making up their own evil spirits that rule this area, that area. So it's not a big deal. Not too sure if there is text that could help with that, or whether that comes with GM Experience. GM Experience is the best way. That's why I'm making these videos and uploading all these weird long videos. I'm going to upload one where I start working on a dungeon crawl because we need, I should have some in there for this experience. Last, with the premise of this game set of spreading the influence of the church, I'd be curious to see if you have a rule set for doing things like starting a new church, and it's really role playing at that point. And services performed at the church. So at the church, or maybe your system is more loose with the rules. I don't know. All right, I'm going to stop now and get ready to work. Keep it up. Okay, so the planning of the church and having a church service is more role played, so you don't have to do game mechanics. Although I'm creating it right now, literally. So I'll have that up at some point. But I'm doing it for the post-apocalyptic and the Christian sci-fi. But it's going to translate to this one as well, where when you plan a church, it becomes a little bit of a support network for you. So when you go out, it's a mechanic thing, and you don't need it for the Dark Ages. I really don't think you should, actually, because you already have the church, actually, the big church. So I may not do it for the Dark Ages. In the Dark Ages, when you plan your church, it's story. It's the main church is going to send the clergy. They're going to come and build a church. You can come back and forth to that church, and get rest up, heal up, maybe get a gift from the clergy, or you're going to bring your treasure to the church and then get a glory point because now they can build a new section, with the treasure you found, and so you get a glory point for that. Anytime you bring back treasure to a church, you're financing it, and then you'll get a glory point, and they'll put your name up there, and you can act like hoity-toity. But so it's just a role playing thing at that point. And then they did, and I actually in one of the sessions I have, which is a bunch of great guys, they did a church service. I actually got them to do a church service. And it was like, they just did a 30-second little sermon, prayer, or whatever thing. And it was fun. It was good. And they just had a roll and see how well they did. And they only affected one, but I made them affect the mean merchant guy who said, "You know what? We're going to help you build this church, and I'm going to start helping people." That's simple. Keep it simple. So it was great too. It was wonderful. It was exactly what, medieval Europe. That's the thing too. Medieval Europe had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, churches being planted, set up. Every one of those churches has a story of families and a village and people every Sunday, every Wednesday, whenever they met all throughout the week. Wonderful stories. We know it grew. We know it exploded across Europe. The Germanic tribes chose Christianity over paganism, but no one talks about it. It's not in any movies. It's not in any fantasy stories. It's not in any role-playing game. Yet it happened 100,000 times minimum, right, across Europe during these times, and over too, and revival. And yet we don't talk about it. All we talk about is paganism, and what the pagans did. And pagans certainly did good works, right? Some of them did good work. Some of them did this. Some of them did that. But in the end, they exposed themselves to sin and corruption. And whereas the Christian church, we all come from the same sin, so we're not perfect. But the Christian church was the thing that said, "No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong." We're the Debbie Downers, but we're the Debbie Downers on sin, on evilness, so that you can be free from that tyranny, from that exploitation, and live a life of peace and joy and prosperity too. All right, don't get me started. Okay, so thanks a lot. And I'm gonna be doing videos just on. Okay. Well, last thing, I am learning how to do this too. This is a role playing game that needed to be done, has not been done. It is original because it's not original because it's just I'm based on reality, but I'm gonna make it fun, right? I'm gonna make it fun. So, there it is. Thank you so much for the comments. They were great, and I was not planning on doing this video today, but there it is. All right, thanks to Magikarp. Yeah.